This is Beijing, China, 1972. Beijing is a city where eras are folded and compressed. In the West, the evolution from feudal monarchy to revolutionary waves, and finally to modern capitalism, might span centuries. But in China, all of this was compressed into a mere 38 years, including 17 years of tumultuous war. From the fall of the last feudal dynasty in 1911 to the founding of the People's Republic in 1949, it happened within the span of just 1 or 2 generations. This is a path global history had never seen before, a path no one had ever trodden. This compression is the root cause of all Chinese issues. It is also the reason why the China seen through the lens of director Michelangelo Antonioni in 1972 appears so fascinating, mysterious, and complex. Let's begin by listening to a piece of music, Ode to the Red Flag. Pay attention to the rising notes and those heavy, repeating beats. It almost feels like you are watching a flag being raised right in front of you. Through this music, you can feel the heavy weight of history, years of war, oppression, and hardship. But underneath that, there is a genuine sound of awe coming from the bottom of their hearts. This isn't just about praising a political party. It is farmers and workers marveling at their own changed destiny. On screen, you see ordinary people from every ethnic background walking right into the center of political power. And remember, this isn't fiction. This is a moment that actually happened in history. It perfectly describes the people's hope. This once impoverished, weak, feudal nation now promised every ordinary person a spot in the spotlight to be the masters of their own destiny. We no longer needed to kneel before officials. We no longer needed to be exploited by landlords. From this moment on, we were the morning sun at 8 or 9 o'clock. He said the world ultimately belongs to us. That he was Chairman Mao Zedong. Western audiences often view the music as pure political propaganda, but I want to shift our perspective. It must contain a more universal, human layer, not just fanaticism. Otherwise, we cannot understand the Chinese perception of, and passion for, the color red, nor can we understand the controversies of the last half-century. Red. Politically, it refers to struggle, resilience, and loyalty to the collective. In the Western context, red often signals danger, stop, debt, or radicalism. But the violent folding of history in this country has given the word red a complex wavelength in the Chinese spectrum that goes far beyond propaganda. It is a composite color that fuses secular life, historical memory, and national faith. Red is not just the color of a party, it is the color of the blood we paid to change our destiny. Walking across the frame are the citizens of Shanghai, 1972. These are just ordinary people living their daily lives, a collective portrait of the masses. There is no grand narrative here, no stage spectacle. It is precisely because of this prolonged, unblinking gaze that we can now see a silent China, one that hasn't been buried under layers of propaganda voiceovers. Antonioni rejects the Soviet-style montage. He refuses to force a cause-and-effect logic onto the footage. He doesn't even follow a chronological timeline. Instead, the documentary unfolds through a structure of geography and themes. This is how he, as a traveler, made sense of China. He believed that if you just observe, the meaning will reveal itself. We've just seen Beijing, a city of order and history, the Forbidden City, Tiananmen Square, the Great Hall of the People. Now we shift to Shanghai. Compared to the capital, this place is alive with industrial rhythm and modern movement. The editing pace accelerates here. The camera becomes fluid, mimicking the boats drifting on the Huangpu River and the vehicles flowing through the streets. The director presents this as a metaphor for the prototype of modern China, a landscape filled with uncertainty.
Era esattamente il contrario, quando su queste sponde non c'era che un povero villaggio di pescatori. Shanghai fu letteralmente inventata come città dal capitale straniero nel secolo scorso. Questa è una nave da guerra cinese. L'abbiamo filmata di nascosto, vincendo un divieto, ma non crediamo di aver violato alcun segreto militare.
Why was this cold, detached audiovisual language banned? Why is the China described by the Chinese themselves always different from the China described by the West? Do we really understand the same China? The purpose of this video essay is to provide a preliminary analysis and explanation from my perspective as a foundation. To understand documentaries about China and why they are banned, we must first understand this nation and the details of the audio-visual language hidden within the frames. He specifically hunts for those moments where nothing happens. Even when an event ends, the camera keeps rolling and the cut doesn't come. We see the awkward glances of passers-by, the continuous hum of street life, even the wind rustling through the leaves. To Chinese officials at the time, this was just waste footage. But clearly, Antonioni believed the process was more important than the result. What the Chinese thought could be skipped, this foreign director felt was impossible to ignore. Whether we are talking about the laws of history or simply the art of cinema. However, this documentary, filmed in 1972, Chung, China, was banned in China. This is fascinating because the film mostly employs silent observation, with only occasional narration. At that time, China yearned to showcase the heroic figures from The East is Red, yet Antonioni captured poor, mortal beings. But looking back today, Antonioni captured the truth we have lost. In those gray, unadorned frames, you see a kind of radical equality, no consumerist anxiety, no obvious class distinctions, poor but uniform. That is what utopia looks like after the filters are removed. This is a powerfully resonant shot. You might not think there is much narrative in watching a juggler, but look closer. In his silent performance, you can still find hints of the deep structure of Chinese tradition. He tosses his props right on the edge of danger, yet his expression remains effortless. This embodies the famous slogan of the socialist era, United, alert, earnest, and lively. Let me say that again. United, alert, earnest, and lively. This was the motto of the times, and it is the single most important key to understanding the majority of Chinese people living under collectivism. It feels like a collective communist dream, an entire nation united in one slumber. Despite the bloodshed, the political purges, and a revolution that eventually stalled, what more can we really demand of a new nation only 70 years old? Imperial power fell less than a century ago. The shadow of autocracy still lingers, but historically speaking, this is a normal part of the cycle. The controversy surrounding this documentary is, at its core, a debate between process and result. It is a clash of two cinematic aesthetics and two philosophies. 70 years simply cannot replicate the perfection of 300 years of evolution. The Chinese were forced onto this path, and perhaps they walked it too fast. One side is utilitarianism, the other values the unfolding moment. This is a vital metaphor for China itself. Now, we understand the weight of process in this film. In Italian neorealism, the time that passes between the cuts is everything. This director tried to preserve as much as possible the time actually flowing within the shots. He interpreted a new China, not just through ideology, but through the aesthetics of editing. In the long river of time, there are no cuts. So do we choose the result, or do we embrace the process?